Ram trucks, built to serve.
Cam Newton's release shocked the world yesterday, so what's next for the former MVP? Ben Simmons says he wants out of Philly and he's prepared to skip training camp. So which team needs to pull off a trade for him and soon? And could 20-0 really be on the board for the Kansas City Chiefs? Good Wednesday morning, everyone. Welcome to First Things First, alongside Mr. Chiefs fan Nick Rice, Chris Broussard, Kevin Wilds. I'm Jenna Wolf. Nick, where's the lie? Where's the loss? I think I'm with you at 20-0. What say you?
Hard to find a loss, Jenna, and it might seem outrageous. This is a team that recently won 25 of 26. Just clean up that one game, 20-0 on deck. We'll discuss.
Coulda, shoulda, woulda. We will get to the Chiefs in just a bit, Nick, but we got some bigger fish to fry this morning. The end of the Cam Newton era in New England after Bill Belichick, I would say, led us all to believe all preseason long that Cam was the team's QB1. The Patriots went and released him yesterday, paving the way for rookie Mac Jones to be the man for the franchise. Cam posted this on Instagram after the news broke. I really do appreciate all the love and support during this time, but I must say, please don't feel sorry for me. Hashtag I'm good. Nick, I'll just say it. I was surprised. I was shocked when I read this yesterday. Happened right if we got off the air. What do you think happened? Why do you think this happened?
Well, listen, Mac Jones is the starter because he outplayed Cam Newton. He has more upside. He is tied to the team far longer. Mac Jones is the starter for all the reasons that I laid out on Monday when we were discussing who was going to be the Week 1 starter. Cam Newton has been released, I feel, and I think it's pretty clear, because of his COVID-related absence. That didn't cost Cam Newton just his starting job. He might have lost that anyway. But that did cost Cam Newton his actual job. And this isn't, I'm not trying to force, I know some people look at established science and vaccines as some type of propaganda. I'm not trying to force that down anyone's throat. It's just the logical conclusion to the sentence of, we want Brian Hoyer more than we want Cam Newton. And I know, by the way, Brian Hoyer got released yesterday too, but that's more of a salary cap roster kind of manipulation, machination thing. The Patriots right now only have one quarterback on the roster. They're going to bring back Hoyer or bring in another backup quarterback. So why isn't it Cam? Because the juice is not worth the squeeze when you have a player who was inconsistent from a production standpoint, inconsistent from a health standpoint, and is, you know, in the small minority of 7%, according to the New York Times, of NFL players who have refused to get the safe, free, effective vaccine. And Broussard, when COVID cost Cam Newton time last year through no fault of his own, and has already cost him time this year through fault of his own, I think that was the final, you know, weight on the scale, ending his time in New England. I see no other justification as to why he wouldn't be the backup quarterback with some goal line and short yardage packages designed specifically for him.
All right, I agree with you, Nick, on Mac Jones. Even those of us, including myself, who thought Cam would be the starter, it was only temporary. Like 4 games, you know, 5 games, whatever. We felt Mac would be in there. And Bill Belichick has a history. One thing you have to give him, love him or hate him, he's going to play the player he thinks gives him the best chance to win. He did it with Tom Brady when he chose him over the first player in NFL history to make more than $100 million on a contract, and he was still in his prime, and that was Drew Bledsoe, and he chooses a 6th-round draft pick over him. He chose Vinny Testaverde over Bernie Kosar in Cleveland. So we know Belichick did this because he thinks Mac Jones is better, and he looked like he was probably better in the preseason. So that you're right on that. where you might, I do agree with you, the vaccination plays some type of a role, or the fact that he wasn't vaccinated, Cam, because all the reports are saying that that is when Mac Jones definitively proved that he could be the starter. Because in those 3 days of practice where Cam was out because of protocol, Mac Jones stepped in with the first team and looked great against the Giants, who actually have a pretty good defense in their back and forth between those two teams in practices. So I think that was a role. I don't think, though, Cam got cut because he was unvaccinated. I think it's very possible that Bill Belichick went to Cam and be out of respect, and I believe all the reports that Belichick really liked Cam, really respects him, and I think he went to him and told him privately what the decision was, and that Cam probably gave him the choice. Do you want to stay here as a backup? Or he may have given him the choice. You want to stay here as a backup, or would you like to go elsewhere? And here's what we know, Nick. Cam does not want to be a backup. In January, he was on WEEI in Boston radio on the Greg Hill show. He said, if you're asking me if I want to be a backup, the answer is hell no. That's what he said. All right, and then a few days ago on Sunday, he posted on Instagram, QB1. Now, was he talking about his jersey number? Possibly, but most people think he was talking about I'm the starter. All right, Cam Newton is not ready to be a backup, I don't believe. And here's the last thing about this, Nick. Let me get this one point in. Mac Jones, as you said correctly, is their quarterback of the future. I don't think you want Cam coming in every fourth or fifth possession with some type of gimmick series. Yeah. And you notice, if Mac struggled, because the Patriots have designs on the playoffs. If Mac struggled, the coaching staff might not feel this way, but fans, media, and even players in that locker room who have respect for Cam Newton would probably start whispering, if not clamoring, why don't we go with Cam?
That's fair.
Why don't we see what Cam can do? I don't think you want your rookie QB in that position.
And I buy into that a bit. Wilds, what Broussard said, and we'll have Mangini on later in the show, and we can bounce this off him as well. What I don't believe at all is that when Bill Belichick is picking his 53-man roster, he gives a damn what anyone's feelings are. If he thought Cam Newton was their best option at backup quarterback, he's keeping him. He's signed him to a contract. They're paying him. Cam has nowhere else to go. I do not think it's like, well, I'd like to keep you, but Cam, what do you want? What are your hopes and dreams? I don't think and I do believe Belichick respects Cam. I just don't think that there's ever, that no matter how much he respects a guy, he allows that emotion to play a part of his decision on building the roster.
That's true. That's
true.
true.
Yeah, I buy it. Belichick is not quite as cold and calculating as people have portrayed him, this Darth Vader character. And there are stories where he'll have some machination to put guys on the injured reserve list so they can get their pension or get some sort of bonus.
Sure.
There's plenty of stories out there like that nobody knows about, that Belichick did guys a solid. But I think you are right that I lean more towards vaccination than I do with winning games. Belichick's going to talk at 8 o'clock. We'll get that to you as soon as possible and discuss it later in the show. But here's why I think Nick's vaccination theory makes sense. None of the other theories really hold water. We've heard, he'd be a distraction. Well, that's not true at all. If you think he's going to be a distraction, you haven't been paying attention to Patriots or anything Bill Belichick said or Josh McDaniels said or Matthew Slater said. Everyone says he's been fantastic, great leader to Mac Jones, and has provided a lot of energy and spark. Broussard, you said he doesn't want to be a backup. Like, all right, reminds me of Carmelo. Like, they want me to come off the bench. Like, yeah, dude, that's where you're at. Like, you might not want to be a backup, but you are. So if you don't want to be a backup, the season starts next Thursday, and then you're not going to start for the Cowboys, you're not starting for the Bucs. So on Sunday, the Broncos are going to throw you in? That doesn't make a lot of sense when one of the reasons you struggled last year is because you didn't have a lot of time with the playbook. So I don't buy that. The other idea is that the Patriots don't need him. That doesn't make a lot of sense either. Because last year, he outplayed Hoyer. He outplayed Stidham. Those guys played terrible when Cam went down with COVID in Kansas City. And Bill Belichick knows. He knows that even if you do go with the young guy like we did with Brady and Bledsoe, if you can run the video, Bledsoe came in and won us a game in the playoffs. That's how we got to the Super Bowl. Brady got hurt. Bledsoe comes in, throws the only offensive points that we got. I think we got some defensive points, go to the Super Bowl. So here's Belichick after this game where he says, hey,